And from wherever you're tuning in, welcome back. It's your sis Moon Magic, and this is Tea and Tarot, a time where we get together every week and vibe with our intuition, pull some cards, check out the energies of the collective, and bring all of our updates and things that are maybe happening in our lives here to the discussion room, here to the live, to be able to share in community and create a sacred space together. Today is going to be a very special edition of Tea and Tarot because I have a special guest, Mother Venom, who will be joining us, and this will be a more discussion based night, so we won't be doing as much tarot pulling. I might pull a card here live at the end for the collective. But I wanted to bring this discussion here to Tea and Tarot Live because I think that it's a very important one and something that I think people who watch Tea and Tarot would be really interested in being able to watch and join the conversation and to see what you all in the chat have to say in response to some of the questions we're going to pose to you all here. And so while we're waiting for our special guests to arrive and people to join the live here, I want to start with our check-in still and invite everyone to check in down below. Whether you're watching this on the live here in the chat, you can go ahead and check in on the chat, or whether you're watching this on the playback, you can go ahead and check in a comment. Let me know, how has your week been? What's been going on in your world? Maybe this week we can share one high and one low, or really anything you want to share. That's just an invitation to share that specifically if you want to. I'm also adding on the live chat my Venmo and Cash App if you're interested in donations. And donations are, it's not required, but they are definitely welcomed and appreciated. So if you're interested, my Cash App and my Venmo will be here in the chat, but it will also be down below on the playback. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive in with check-ins this week. Let's see, one high and one low for your girl over here. One high that I had this week is I finished finals. Yes, I'm on winter break, which is, I think, a high because I get a little extra time and just, being proud of myself for finishing the first semester back at school in this audio engineering and music program. A low, today our water in the house that I'm at, we have a leak. So our water got turned off by the city. So we're working through that. That's like my low right now because that's what I just found out about today. As for other updates, the Xmas, it's a wrap show. Shout out to everyone who came through. That was really fun. I had a great time wrapping up the year with everyone. And shout out to Soli Bull, Grody Omega, Tomorrow Today, Jaji Preem, and as well as 2 a.m. and Jack the Mad Rapper, Indigo Queen, who popped on as a special guest for my set, as well as Theater Mutiny. I haven't gotten to rap with Theater Mutiny in a very long time. Before I knew how to make beats, Theater Mutiny was making beats for me and helping me put me onto so much game as an independent artist, like how to sign up for royalties, a lot of that kind of stuff. So salute to him. That was a really fun highlight as well. Other updates from this week. I think those are the main things I can think about. Yeah, those are the main things. Been working a lot and doing a lot more producing for other artists, as well as just recording with other artists and things like that. So that's been exciting. But yeah, if anyone has any updates they want to share, like I said, you can share them down below in the chat. And we're going to go ahead and bring on our special guests because I see that they're in the room. Mother Venom is an artist here in Sacramento, also known as Tasia. Phenomenal artist, super amazing, super talented, strong voice in the community, and just a very thought-provoking person in general. I also feel like they have a very just beautiful spirit and beautiful energy about themselves, and they also pose a lot of different questions or commentary to their page, and so I felt that this would be a great place to bring them on board. This conversation kind of started with us talking about something off camera, and then it just turned into being such a great discussion to bring here to T and Tara. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on our special guest, Mother Venom. See if it goes through. Hey, there she
Thank you. That
is.
was such a sweet introduction. Thank
Oh,
you.
there's so much more I need to mention, but the main things I could think about was just how phenomenal of an artist you are. Amazing stage presence, by the way. For if you've not seen Mother Venom live, woo, yes, and just like I love the discussions and things that you post up on your page, and just
Yeah.
bringing a lot of important topics to light, but also still having such a like playful spirit about you. I think is so beautiful.
Yes.
Also a mom, so shout out to
Yes.
all the badass
Big
moms in the
mommy
world.
vibes. Big mama.
And still being an independent artist and dope person.
Thank you.
But yeah, why don't you go ahead and start by introducing yourself as you introduce yourself and tell people a little bit more about your journey as an artist here in Sacramento and beyond so that those watching this back can get to know you a little bit better.
Absolutely. So I go by Mother Venom. That's my stage name, and then I've started getting more comfortable introducing myself as just Venom. And that's just more of the off stage entertainer version of me. So big Venom, never the little one. I love the sacred art of play. So that's like the undercurrent of everything I try to do is just remind people to go back to our childlike nature and just remember what it's like to play without what does it mean? What is somebody going to look at me as? Like just forgetting that other people's opinions even exist and then remembering that the people who are aligned with you are always going to find you. They're going to find your energy. They're going to love your energy, never tell you you're too much or too little. And the right people for you are always going to want to see you play. They're always going to want to see that, like, that playfulness. So that's a lot of my music, a lot of like even my social media content is about just being playful, being yourself, being sexy because that's not inherently lustful either. And just like having like deconstructing all the ways that we attach narratives to stuff. So that's the essential part of what makes Mother Venom and yeah, so you can see that in my page, you can see that in my music, you can see that and the way that I treat people, I think, and I hope so. So
I
that's
definitely see it. And I was going to say you weave in a lot of spirituality, but I wouldn't even necessarily consider it that. I think it's just a lot of inner knowing, which,
yeah,
can be coined as spirituality or just like higher type of, just being able to see through things or have a good
yeah,
head on your shoulder of understanding the many different ways that things move and work in the world and
yeah.
knowing yourself really well in that whole. But I think that's what brought this discussion here to T and Tara and why I wanted to
Mhm.
share it here. But before we do jump into that, how long have you been doing music? Tell us a little bit more about that journey and here as an artist in Sacramento and beyond. And then we'll jump into our discussion today.
Absolutely. So I was actually just like rethinking how I even got into music because when I was younger, I was like really heavily into poetry. And I loved music, but I never felt like I was good enough to make any music. And then I used to be married. So I got married at 18 years old and I was with him for 7 years of my life. Well, that was seven total. But at the end of our marriage, I started like writing things down, and it was at first poetry again, just trying to like get my thoughts on paper. And then it morphed into like, okay, let me do this poetry to a beat. And then I was like, wait a minute, this cadence sounds like music more than it does poetry. And so I started to like blur that line a little bit. Then I came home back to Sacramento. I used to live in Germany. And then when I came back, almost immediately just jumped into the art world because my sister started going to like Jakari's shows. And so I was like,
Shout out
okay,
to Jakari
cool.
Smith.
Shout out to Jakari Smith.
Super
So I
dope
guess,
artist scene. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that I can comfortably say that like meeting Jakari and starting to even just support him made me realize that it's something that's so capable for me. Just because I started meeting so many people and so many people were pouring into me, and then I started, and this was about 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, almost exactly, I started making music with that entire group. There was like Jakari Smith, Dre T was there, Andres was there of A&K, and Nisi Martin was there. Shout out to Nisi because that's how we started being like such kindred spirits. That's one of my best friends. That's my sister. And yeah, so then I started making music with them. I started like honing in what I want, what I felt like sounded like. I was like battled with even trying to like fight off other people's ideas of what I should sound like, and like being so strong and like, no, I know that you think that I could make music like this, and I agree, but that's just not in my spirit. And just being really strong in what direction I was going in. And then I got pregnant with my son, so that's my little sunshine. And then I took about that whole 10 months of pregnancy away from music just to like ground myself and get ready to be a different person and to change. And then 1 month postpartum, Aunt Shorter, previously known as Greatness, he put me onto a show at Solomon's before it closed. And I was 1 month postpartum, not even feeling myself, but like I was like, wait, this I gotta do it. I popped up. I was like, yeah, this is what I'm meant to do. And then I popped right back into doing music. I was like, all right, this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is me. And it's been about a year and a half of me writing a lot of music like consistently, but it's only really been about 6 months of me taking shows seriously and like trying to make myself into Mother Venom and not just Tissia.
Mhm. Hey, well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Welcome.
One, I didn't know you started in poetry. I also started in poetry, so that's super dope. I love that.
Hmm.
And two, also coming out postpartum like that, bam, I
Yeah.
love that.
Hmm.
That's amazing. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to give people a little bit of a background of who you are and where they can, I'll have all your information linked down here so people can come find you and look at your social media as well. But definitely love seeing your journey unfold and been really, really loving, like I said, the things that you've posted as well, just like philosophically or just more on the spiritual side of things. So this conversation started for those watching from I posted something about it was a snippet of one of my songs, Ain't Personal, and I was just talking about in the caption how hard it is to be human right now. And do you remember what you commented?
I don't. I
You said
remember.
specifically it was like we are what we think we are, something like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
I always say you are who you think you are, or
You are
you
who
are
you
who
think
you
you are.
say you are.
Who you say you are, yeah. And it's, something even here on TNTR Live I've talked about in the past, and especially these last couple weeks, because I do feel like the energies have been really rough and with the holidays, and how difficult it really is to be a human in general. I
Yeah.
always just think how weird it is, the human experience. But so we just started talking off camera about that kind of concept because it's something that I've always kind of struggled with personally. So I
Mm.
want to start by just letting you speak on what that means to you to be what you say that you are, and then I'll share a little bit about what it means to me and the parts that I've kind of struggled with that concept, and we can kind of go from there.
Period. Yeah. So I first started saying that when I gave birth, because, and I have like a poem that I posted on one of my highlight reels that's called Words.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, the idea is that everything I was meant to create, I was always guaranteed to survive. Like I was always going to survive writing a song. I was always going to survive like cooking a meal. Like there's no way I was going to but creating my son was never guaranteed whether or not I was going to live past that. And then the after effects of like the ego death of realizing I'm not the same person, I'll never be the same person. And then watching myself not be able to use the bathroom by myself, like, and like hold my bladder, just simple stuff that we take for granted. I was like, oh my God, I can do so much and I can be brought down so much. So there is like a back and forth of like how much we can control in life. But I am exactly who I say I am. I did the craziest thing that I know myself like capable of doing. And I lived through it. And if I can do that, there's so much of life that we actually can take hold of. There's so much we are in control of. And like I think that we're constantly under this really big voice in our heads and out in the world that tells us we're not in control of anything. You just kind of have to let go and the beaten path that everybody's telling you to do. But in reality, there's so many paths that we can take. There's no like guarantees in it, and there's like a lot of risks, but in actuality, we have so much control. We have control over the story we want to like write for ourselves, the character we want to be in that story. There's always going to be fixed points, but we can. There's so much wiggle room in the middle that we can write our own stories. So that's what I mean when I say that.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And I think the reason I really wanted to bring it here to Tea and Tarot and just have this discussion live is because, especially in spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual communities and all of that, there's a lot of this kind of, you know, understandably like pushback with the idea of manifestation and this idea of just like you say you are who you are, so you are that person.
Yeah.
When we have all the things in the world like capitalism and racism and sexism and all the other isms that it's really difficult to hold on to that belief and when you have those kind of other realities, and then on top of it you also have things that are happening that give people further privileges or accesses to be able to say who they are, that doesn't they don't start at the same level, right? So
Hmm.
depending on where you're born, depending on your also money, depending on uh, even like the way that you were raised, or what you've been taught, there's all these other kind of factors that go into it. And I'm always really mindful of it because I think there can be a lot of like spiritual bypassing and a lot of like fluffy love and light positivity, like, oh my gosh, everything's just great because I say it is, and like
Yeah.
manifest a baby, and it's like that sounds all great on paper, but then
Yeah.
you look off camera and you're like, most of those people's life and what people are saying is not the reality of what's really
Yeah.
going on. And it's also either that or it's based really directly in privilege. And so for
Hmm.
myself, part of also my own platform is kind of always kind of holding those two parallels of like spirituality, quote unquote, right? Like being, which I think everybody is spiritual by nature. That's why I always have this kind of weird thing about the spiritual community or spirituality. It's just a
Yes.
matter of how aware we are of the spirit inside of us and how we relate to it, to whether we call it spirituality. But whether it's God and it's Christianity or Buddhism or Hinduism or paganism or whatever it is, like if it's just you're don't even believe in a religion but you're very connected to yourself, it's like it's this
Hmm.
essence of understanding your own self and your position in the world and the energy around us. That's how I see it personally. And so when we start saying these kind of words, it creates this hierarchy that we say that we're against, which
Yes.
creates the hypocrisy that I try to kind of, just be mindful of. And when I'm navigating, and especially being in a white body, because it can come oftentimes also from a place of privilege, especially when we start talking about manifestation and just like saying you are who you are and then
Hmm.
just be it. And it's like, well, that's great for someone who might look like me, and because it's easier to be able to do those things and have access to those things than it is for other people. And so even for myself, I know I struggle with that belief because there is a part of me that strongly agrees that we are who we say we are. And I've seen
Hmm.
that in my own life, right? As an artist, as someone who was very timid and very shy to ever get on a mic before I started rapping, who also has gone through being, in a very abusive household, who has gone through being in a house with a lot of alcoholism, who has gone through, being in a place that I was not surrounded by people who spoke
Yeah.
life to me, and instead like really struggled with my self-esteem, struggled with feeling like I had any kind of purpose, and
Yeah.
seeing the way in which music and um, the things that I do now have really brought that to me forefront, to where I've been able to heal these parts of myself that I never thought I would be able to overcome, whether that's like issues I have with my family or feelings I have about certain things that I feel like I may never be able to experience, griefs I had to let go of, things I've had to let go of. But I've seen how the power of my mind and my will has been able to transform my life in really positive ways and create an experience that is way more aligned to how I see myself and what I want for myself. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I do see this aspect of um, the certain limitations that we do have. And I know we were talking off camera about, like, for example, like I could want to grow wings out my back of my side, and no matter how
Yeah.
much I want to grow wings out the back of my side, it's just never going to happen. And it's not because I'm not manifesting it or willing it enough, it's just that it's like physically impossible. And
Mm.
it's not something not all things are meant to be experienced, and I think that goes beyond just physical limitations. And so
Yes.
sometimes it's kind of hard to for myself to see the line for that, and I wonder how you approach that when going through all the things that you do and all the struggles that you've had. What certain things in your life do you know that you're like, okay, this is just a physical limitation, or this is something that I'm not meant to experience right now, and I do have to let it go and let it be, versus this is something that I'm not going to compromise on at all.
Yeah. So I think that the most obvious line for physical limitations are money
Mhm.
and like the body I show up in. And luckily for me, I have a lot of privileges associated with myself as well. I'm an Afro Indigenous woman, but at the same time, I'm a light skinned woman. I'm mixed. So I have a lot of privileges in the society, and I'm in a lot of ways like conventionally attractive. That is by itself is very like it puts you up in a different category for people. And unfortunately, we deal with a lot of favoritism in the world, and it's something that I will capitalize on when I need to. But yeah, I have a lot of other. I grew up in a very like. I grew up in hardship. I grew up in like a stressful environment. I grew up surrounded by like mental illness, and those are all things that set me back. So like when I'm trying to manifest relationships, for example, relationships with people are the one thing that I can't manifest. I refuse to manifest. Like I actually try to stay away from like any sort of pushing something with another person. Interpersonal relationships for me are the one of the only things other than like sprouting wings or like all of a sudden I'm a dragon, you know?
Yeah.
Like I those things will not be real for me, and I will only be able to take what I'm given. Because
Mm.
you can't protect other people. You can't
Right.
force people to do the things you want to do. You can't will somebody into loving you that you've never met. Like, it's
Mm.
not real. You can call in love, but the way you do that is by loving yourself first.
Mhm.
And so, like, there's just a lot of doing the inner work and hoping and praying and waiting and being patient and keeping the door open and not letting, like, the wrong people take the spot of the person you want in that spot,
Mhm.
you know? So there's like, and in that way you have control. You have control over like the people you let into your life and the example you're setting for spirit to of what you want and what you
Mhm.
won't be like uh what is it called? Like you won't allow anything else other than that greatness. I
Mhm.
want this energy in this spot, and I won't let somebody that doesn't fit that take that spot so I can prove to you I need that. But I
Mhm.
can't force somebody to come and get that. So I I definitely feel like there's and even we were talking about how simple it is to want to look a certain way. Like I want to dress up like I'm the queen of the damned every day. I definitely want to walk outside and go to Target and look like a goddess, but a lot of that takes money, it takes effort, it takes having time, and time itself is such a currency
Mhm.
that like I can't wake up and say, okay, I want to shower by myself because I have to think about my son. We're
Mhm.
showering together. I can't always think of, oh my god, I'm gonna take an hour to just do my self-care routine because I have a human to take care of, and then he has to go somewhere and I have to go somewhere.
Mhm.
There's things that need to be done so that life can continue. And yeah, so I definitely feel like money, sexuality, even how I was raised, my upbringing, what I used to think I deserved in life, those are things that I was able to like transmute and change over time. But those take way longer, and it takes hijacking the system that is inherently against us. And there's still so much you can do because in a democracy, I believe we can't have billionaires.
Mhm.
Like we are in a
Period.
system like we are in a
Why you have a
system.
billion dollars is beyond me. Like
What do you need that for?
one
Like
time, I think we broke down how much Jeff Bezos makes like an hour, and it's like $60,000 an hour.
I'm sick.
And I'm
I'm
just like, bro,
sick.
how do you make like three times as much as I do in an hour?
Thank you. Thank you. Like I make that in a
That's
year
crazy.
or less than that. Like what are we talking about? And so like we have people like that
Crazy.
who are like, oh my god, here's the key to happiness and success, and you're just like, you're actually just an anomaly.
Yeah.
You are actually like the way that the system tries to prove to us that hard work will get you there. It won't. Like they are just these like superstars, billionaire the people who made billionaire status by any means, whether it's music or entrepreneurship or whatever, they are used as like the see if you work hard enough, just stay in the system, stay
Mhm.
thinking this way, and I promise you, one of you will make it. And
Yeah.
that's all a fallacy. It's not real. It's so not real. So we have to
That's
do what we
important to
can.
talk about because when we start talking about manifestation and people just say, oh, you just got to will it, it's this idea where, like, I could just be the billionaire. Anybody can be the billionaire. We all can just be the billionaires. And it's like all the things you just said is like the system is flawed. And then why are we, what? What are we talking
Yes.
about?
Yes. So it's like, it's because on the one hand, it feels like just this prison we're in.
Mhm.
So, like, because we're in a very real
Yeah.
capitalistic prison that they're trying so hard to convince us is actually freedom. And we're like, oh my God, see, I can do all these things. That's not true. But what we can do, there's so much we can do, and it'll change our life little by little, and it starts on the inside, and that's one thing people cannot take away from you. And that's why manifestation and how you feel about yourself and what you're like dreaming of, because dreams are so important, those things can never be taken away from you. So
Mm.
like all the other limitations we have, like money and even health, those things are so fragile, they'll be taken from us any day. But the way that we stay strong in our like spirit and our purpose and our identities, that's how we can stay like manifestative and magic.
Mm.
That's where the magic is.
I'm gonna take a moment to shout out some of the people in the room. I saw X on here. He said, "Hope y'all you've been well, Moon." Shout out to X in the chat. I see Gio LOL says, "Life pours out of you, sister.
I
Life is
love you,
out of
Gio.
you." Jose Balmy says, "Hi." I see Indigo Queens up in the building. Hey, sis. Nicole
Big
Gentry's in
queen.
here. Hello, beautiful. Shout out to Rob Sparks. I think he was up in this as well. And shout out to everybody else who is in the chat or coming and watching on the live or the playback. Thank you all so much for being here. We're just having a sit down conversation talking about the concept of you are who you say you are and what that really means, especially in the kind of Black Mirror episode that we live in today, but also being very like, spiritual beings and really just human beings in general. Like, what does that truly mean and the nuance? It sounds like from the things that you've been sharing, it's a lot of nuance and discernment and having the understanding between those things. Uh-oh, I think you froze. All right, y'all, welcome back. It's T and Tara Live special edition with Mother Venom. We had a couple of connectivity issues. The Wi-Fi was going out, so we went ahead and ended the first part of this chat. It will be on the main page, and in post, I'll go ahead and put the chats together, and they'll be up on my YouTube page. But I'm gonna go ahead and let people come back into the live, and then when Mother Venom gets back into the live, I'm gonna bring her back up, and we will continue on the conversation. The conversation has been about when you say you are who you are, that idea of willing who you are. What does that really mean? And some of the nuances in that discussion and bringing it here to the Tea and Tarot Live circle so that we can have a conversation about it and dive deeper into what it means. And I really love these conversations because, I feel in this space that it's important to have a little bit of a deeper dive, especially on things that people may say and we don't really understand the context of what it truly means. And it's always great to hear other people's perspectives. So shout out to Mother Venom for being a part of this chat and, blessing us with their perspective on what it means to be exactly who you say you are. So I'm going to go ahead and have Mother Venom join us now and bring her back into. And if you don't have your tea, go grab your tea, y'all. I'm drinking, I think this is golden turmeric honeys. This is a good time to re-up on your teas. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Yes, they try to keep us down. No, I'm
I
kidding.
know, right? They started hearing like, oh, they're saying too much. We gotta put them down.
They said it's too good.
But what I was saying before it went started buffering was that it sounds like from what you're saying that it's a lot of nuance and discernment. Having the nuance and of like understanding the nuances and experience, like you said, like your own different identities that you hold, my own different identities I hold, the different privileges and also different positions of power and also different
Yeah.
areas in which I've struggled and vice versa, right? But then also it sounds like a lot of discernment, like you said, for the things that you have to have the wisdom of understanding that it's outside of your control,
Yeah.
and then also having discernment and have the wisdom of understanding that this is in your control and that we're just being taught that that's out of our control. And
Yeah.
that's where, from the conversation, from what you've shared so far, I feel like is the real juicy part of really understanding that and playing
Yeah.
around with that and having more fun with that and maximizing that. And some of the things that I heard you talk about were like, one, it's like how you take up space in a room or how you show
Hmm.
up in a room, your presence, um, how you view yourself, how you see
Yes.
yourself.
Heavy on that.
Um, and you know, the way you talk about yourself and you know, talk life to yourself, the people you
Yeah.
have in your life. But I also heard you say that some of the things that are kind of uncontrollable outside of like growing wings and stuff like that are kind of things
Yeah.
that involve other people, which heavy on that, right? Because like,
Yes.
you know, I think when we talk about, you know, being who you say you are, and then people look and they're like, well, my family situation and my this and my that doesn't look like
Yeah.
that. So I feel like I'm not able to get that either, you know?
Yeah.
And you acknowledging like when there is another person, you can't force them to do these things.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can, but let me tell
Yeah.
you,
That was a little
will
slippery
not turn
slope.
out good for you.
Yeah, there's this really funny meme, and a lot of people in my life say it just as a joke. But it was like when she says I'm not her man, but mind you, this is my life. So
Mhm.
like he's like, no, 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 I don't care what you say, I'm still your man. It's like it's funny in theory, but it's not real.
Yeah.
Like that's why those kind of things, it's not up to just you.
Hmm.
So, and those are also really beautiful things too, because when two people choose each other and your purposes are aligned, then you did manifest something beautiful.
Hmm.
It's like that in my culture, because I'm more spiritually Jewish than I am like religiously,
Hmm.
but in our culture, our prayers are louder together, which is
Hmm.
why you can do things better as a group. And then only on high holidays are our voices individually as loud as
It's
the
Hanukkah
collective.
right now too,
It
right?
is. Happy
Happy
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
Thank
Hmm.
you, thank you. Day 4. Um,
Hey.
yeah, and so it's like it's one of those things where on high holidays, our voices individually are just as loud as any other day when we are praying together.
Hmm.
So it's like this is a very pivotal time of like manifesting and pouring life into the future and being committed to the future that you want, because you are more likely to get it when you say it's yours. Like,
Hmm.
and those aren't even just like spiritual thoughts. Like, I think in the last article of The Great Joy Hunt by Andrew Defy, he talks about, I don't know if it's this past one or the one before, but he talks about how like a lot of what you do is how much you're telling yourself. So like if you tell yourself you're unhappy, if you tell yourself you're depressed, if you keep repeating, even if it's true, like clinically, even if you keep repeating that, your brain will believe what you tell it. And
Hmm.
so half of the power is in our mind, and half of the power is like just rewiring what our belief systems are. So if I say that like, oh my God, it is disgusting of me to dance online and be like provocative, then I'm going to believe that. I'm going to give myself shame because I'm still going to want to do that, but I'm going to shame myself in the process, and I'm going to infuse so much like spiritual cancer. But then if I tell myself it's freeing, it's beautiful, it's ancestral, it's a community based thing, I've been doing this my whole life with women around me and it wasn't a lustful thing, then that's exactly what I'm going to believe. And I'm not going to attach other people's ideas of shame and like aggression onto it.
Hmm.
So as long as we are rewiring things like that, our the way we show up is going to be so much more authentic.
Hmm.
And that's just like who we say we are. I am that bad bitch who's spiritual and I twerk online, but I'm a great mom and I'm super smart, and
Hmm.
all of those things can coexist.
Yeah.
Erica Badu said I can have a fat ass and be a spiritual baddie.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I
Yes.
am who
Yes.
she says I am.
But you already know Erica Badu is like my mama. I love Erica
Mm-hmm.
so
Big
much.
mama.
And that's also one of the things I really love about you is that I think you have that kind of energy within you as well. And it's something that I'm always really attracted to in artists and in people,
Hmm.
are people who kind of have that state of like duality or like omnipresence about them, where it's like, because
Yeah.
I really part of being a human and navigating as an artist and trying to find your lane and like find your voice is, like I said, you come across these kind of boxes and things like the
Um,
spiritual community, and you're like, man, this label is weird and people are kind
yeah.
of weird in this label, and they have these kind of projections that they'll put onto you,
Yeah.
like what you just said, where it's like, oh well, you can't have a nice booty and be shaking it and enjoy doing what you do and then be spiritual or be a wholesome person or
Yes.
be like a good person. Like, you just must be
Hmm.
this terrible provocative person. And it's like
Yes.
all those things can exist, and if we're all being really honest, when the cameras aren't on, let's be real, you be shaking your ass in your bedroom, come
I
on,
know what you're
like,
doing.
you're shaking your ass for your man or your best
Thank you.
friend or out on the club scene, while you
Thank
go
you.
to church on Sunday. Come on, like,
Thank
let's be so
you.
for real.
Shaking that shit for, for spirit.
And so I always love people who are like upfront with that, because I think there's a lot of like hypocrisy that people
Yes.
like to project onto others, and it's really just a rejection within themselves and
Yes.
their inability to like accept their own totality. So they have
Hmm.
like, so they walk around almost like fragmented versions of themselves, because they haven't like accepted that part of themselves, whether it's them rejecting parts of their own identity, rejecting parts of their own personalities that they love, or they're rejecting maybe parts of their personality that they hate, that they have
Yeah.
shame for. I'm really big on the real essence of shadow work, and the idea of it to me is this idea of like learning to navigate with it, not to like
Hmm.
reject it or get rid of it. Similar
Yes.
reasons of why I pull tarot is not to, I don't think that the tarot is going to tell you something you don't know. I don't think it's going to tell you your future, like
Mm.
I'm somehow know your life better than you do. All
Yes.
it tells you is the energy that's in front of you and helps us to navigate, because we have the awareness of it, which is the same
Yeah.
thing I feel like with what you're saying about I am who I say I am, or
Hmm.
our shadows, is that we can reject these certain aspects of ourselves, or we can pretend we don't know who we are, or don't want to like put it on there, but then it's like we're going to be influenced by something, and it's still going to be there regardless. It's just a
Yes.
matter of, are you aware of it, and are you working with it, or are you like subconsciously having it work against you and you have no idea.
Yeah.
And how we go about it, because it sounds like also a lot of intention from what you're saying, right? Like
Hmm.
going back to that conversation about billionaires, right? Like,
Hmm.
if your idea is that you want to be wealthy or to have money, and you're trying to manifest wealth, what does that look like in a system
Yeah.
where we're also like, our idea of wealth is so skewed?
Yeah.
And especially for myself, the idea of wealth can also be very much associated with white colonial supremacist culture.
Yes.
And that being such a thing that I do not want to represent or be about. So it's like, I don't want to be poor, but I have to work on this belief system that I have within me, that wealth is associated directly to that and only to that.
Yeah.
Um, which is a whole other, part of this discussion for myself that I kind of work through, of like, my this idea that poverty connects me to not being these things, or that these things
Yeah.
are only connected to people from this demographic, or to
Yeah.
people who are bad people fundamentally,
Yeah.
who are creating and using a system to gain without caring about what happens to anyone else.
Yes. Yeah. No, I definitely have battled that because I'm a Taurus. So by nature,
Hey.
yes, money flows to me like water. Thank goodness that it does. But and it's because I have that mindset. And I fully believe that because when I was more like, oh, I don't know where my money's gonna come from. I'm not good with money. When I had that kind of verbiage, I was the brokest ever. And I had a great job. Now I'm like a full-time artist. I sometimes don't even know where my money's coming from. And I'll say, I'm gonna get $3,000 on Monday. I don't know where, I don't know how, but I'm going to, and it happens. And a lot of it's footwork and like accidental happenings and me connecting with people and me doing things that are in my purpose and saying that while I follow my purpose, I'm going to get the things that I deserve. Um, and that I get opportunities, because that's another thing I feel like when we ask for what we want, like we ask for money, we ask for patience, we ask for self-love, we don't get those things immediately. We get the opportunity to get them. We get opportunities to practice wisdom if we say we want to be wise. We get opportunities to practice being patient when we want to be patient. So like I get opportunities to make money the minute I say I want money. I need money. I need this paid for. I need this handled. And then I take those opportunities, I take them very seriously. But yeah, I definitely feel like um, I also don't shy away from, like I said, using privilege and using other people's privileges.
Mm-hmm.
I fully believe in that as a Black woman. If I come across somebody who wants something from me, whether it's attention or if it's like wisdom or whatever, if they're in a position that like already put them 10 steps ahead of me in life,
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like, this is my price for that. Here's the cost that it's going to take. And you either pay that or you don't. And more often than not, if I speak with that confidence and know that what I'm offering, even if it's just my presence,
Mm-hmm.
is worth it, they will pay for it. So there have been so many things, and like even just in work, I'm the personality hire, but there've been so many times where people are like, yeah, you were a social worker for so long, but we put you on the board of this because we wanted you to hear your ideas on event planning and all these things, and you're gonna get a bonus because of it. And I'm like, "Ugh, tight, tight. You said 5 grand, but make it 7. Make it 7. Yeah, I've got to get my nails done, and my son, he needs a vacation. So it's like, and it's moments like that because I also like I fully believe in talking your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you know that you're worthy and deserving of something, do not talk yourself out of it just because you need it. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I'll be like, I need $5,000. And if somebody's like, okay, I have 5,000, I'm like, if you have 5, you might have 7.
Yeah.
You might have 10 for me. Let me haggle with you. Let me figure this out because I'm deserving of it. I need it. And I have so much to give the world. So it's all like filtering back into society, which is what billionaires don't do. They
Mm-hmm.
hoard, they keep it within themselves, and then when they give like little change pieces, and they're like, "Oh, here's a little something," so you can get excited, but then they get a tax break and it's right back in their accounts. So
Yeah.
it's sick. It's
In the
sickening.
great words of Billie Eilish, she said, "Give some of that away, shorty."
Get that away. Give me some. Give me some of that.
So you said though that you used to kind of battle with that, and it sounds
Yeah.
like it's something you've worked through. So for people who are watching this and just in general, like what would be some of your advice and tips and or part of your story of how you transformed that into really recognizing to show up and ask for more, and to understand those kind of nuances and build that kind of discernment. What were some of the experiences that shaped that for you, and what
Yeah.
was that transformation process like?
I've been on this journey for years, but the minute I had my son, I looked at him and I knew he deserved the world. I looked at him and I was like, I have to do everything in my power to give you the world.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we're not taught to treat ourselves like that. So I had to learn how to parent myself in that way and realize I also deserve the world. And like, I also deserve to show up for myself the way I would show up for my son. Like, if I walk into a doctor's office and they're not giving him the best care, or a family member, like I go to family members' appointments with them all the time, and they
Mm-hmm.
get mistreated in the medical setting, I'm immediately like, no, this is what we deserve. This is what you're going to do because this is in your power. And if you're not going to do it, I'm still going to make you do it. And a lot of it is just advocating for yourself the way you would for someone else that you love. So
Mm-hmm.
I show up for myself now so much more because my son deserves it. And I am a baby too. I'm my mom's baby. My mom is her mom's baby. We're all somebody's baby who deserves to be taken care of by this world, and we're all supposed to take care of each other. And we've gotten so far away from like village mentality of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we're supposed to share responsibilities and share kids and raise these beings together and share responsibilities of hunting and gathering and art and music. We've strayed so far that now we have to pay each other for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing that I need that, I'm calling it in all the time. I'm like, what the worst somebody's gonna say is no. I'm not fearful of a no. I'm not. Rejection is exciting. Even I'm like, I'm like, ooh, what could I have said different? Let me figure out how I can have changed that next time. You're
I love
right. You're
that.
right.
I love
So
that.
everything's an opportunity, and like embarrassment doesn't exist for me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't get embarrassed. Like, who gonna check me, boo? I watched my son come out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Embarrassment's not real. Shame's not real for me. And it's all just about caring more about your future and your love for yourself and protecting it than it is about how somebody else is going to treat you or the perspective they have of you.
I love that. That's so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. We have a couple more minutes. I do want to pull at least one card for the collective here together and see your thoughts on it. But before I do, is there any other thing you want to add to this conversation or this dialogue?
Yeah, I definitely want to re-clarify because we said it in the first part, and you've been super, super wonderful about making sure that it's like said, but I think it's very important to acknowledge our privileges in this space, and to talk about how hard it is to live in other skins. So whatever I say, like a lot of our future is in our control. We really do have to take a very detailed list of all the things that we aren't in control of, and the things that we are. And sometimes those lists are smaller for other people. Oftentimes they are, especially Black women, Black moms, Black single moms, Black like women in general, elderly people, children. We all have different levels of privilege, and it's really important to acknowledge that. And you have been doing that all day, and I just want to make sure that I did too.
Hey, thank you. I know. And it's also so wild to think about like also just being in America and an American too, with all the things that we see around the world. And you
Yeah.
add that layer on top of all of it too is, our perspective on a lot of things is skewed, I think, simply just as Americans.
Yeah.
And definitely something I want to also speak on because I know also people might be watching this from other countries and they have a whole list of other things happening that we are so unaware of or don't know. And that's why these conversations are so important because, we start thinking about it and we're thinking about it, like you said, from not in our own skin, but in our or not from someone else's body or perspective, but from our own perspective,
Yes.
that we're limited to not understanding all those different nuances unless you're actively, like you said, calling them to attention. And I think that's super important. I appreciate you so much for doing that, and being willing to have this conversation because I think it's to me way more empowering for people to see that and to hear that and be like, oh, it's not just like because I'm not trying hard enough. I feel like there's a lot of like shaming and making people feel like, oh, you're just not manifesting it hard enough, or you're just like, it's your fault for not believing in your own work.
Work harder.
Yeah, work harder. And I'm like, as someone who grew up in poverty and grew up in a predominantly non-white community and grew up in the family dynamic that I had, like, I know that to not be true. And through my own lived experiences and the lived experiences of people in my community. And I carry those kind of lenses with me. And I think it's very important to have those conversations because a lot of the conversations in spaces like this can become very like colonial and just white centered and conversations of privilege, just even being Americans, that like we have no idea really what that means. Like you said, for other people the list can be very, very small, and I think it can be ignorant of us to say that like it's a blanket statement. So I love this conversation. I look forward to continuing this conversation and doing the part 2 like we talked about on your platform.
Coming soon.
Would you like to talk a little bit about that before we pull a card, what the platform is, any sneak peek that we get?
Yeah, so I have been blessed for Shimo Media to pick me up as a host for a podcast. And shouts out to Shimo. He's amazing. He's the behind the scenes man for a lot of greatness in Sacramento right now. So I'm really, really excited. And a lot of it is going to be just my thoughts on the world in general, but also putting on musicians in the city and trying to get to know each other on a personal level and break down from song to song or performance to performance what makes a performer a performer. And yeah, I'm really, really excited to explore Sacramento in that way. So do
you have a first air date coming yet?
I think we're gonna start filming next week.
Okay.
So and we want to have
soon.
Yes, so it's right around the corner.
Okay, awesome. Well, all right, before we get out of here, we're going to go ahead and pull a card. So I'm going to take some time to just kind of ground in if you want to join me. And just take some couple deep breaths in and out. And this is just to kind of center and ground ourselves before we pull a card today. And just connecting with our heart space or whatever feels comfortable. Acknowledging anything that might be on our mind or our heart today. taking some time to listen to our breath, the sounds in the room. And we're going to go ahead and pull one card just to kind of see what the energy is for the collective before we end today. So just asking that this message come in with clarity and ease that makes perfect sense to all those who are watching. And so it is. Alrighty, we gonna get started. All right, let's see what comes through.
I'm
We
so excited.
have, we have the Fool card.
Ooh, we are just kids.
Alrighty, so
we
usually on the live, T and Tara live, I always tell people to stop, pause, listen to their intuition, share in the chat or share in the playback, what is the first thing that pops to your mind when you see this card before we jump into it and what we're getting from it. I think that's always so important because a lot of times, like I said, in tarot, I feel like there can be this hierarchy or this idea that like the person pulling the card is somehow so above the other person receiving the reading and just is so wise and you can never know what they know and it's a lot of smoke and mirrors to me. And I think a big part of pulling tarot for me is being able to show how it's such a great self-reflective and therapeutic tool that can be accessed by anyone. And there's a lot of history behind it. And things that are important to know about tarot that help you to get stronger in your practice. But a lot of it is also just very intuitive. So if anyone wants to share in the chat down below, I see Cairo's up in here, Felicia's up in the building, Ungaffable Productions, what they may see in the card. I'll put it closer to the camera. Any stories that might be coming up for them.
Talk to us.
Let us know. I know for
Talk to
me,
us.
I just noticed the mountains in the background. So I usually notice in the full card.
It's
It's also
the
a heck of red. There's a lot of red
it's
going on
the
here.
it's the head up for me. It's just just childlike wonder, just I
Also,
love
like,
that.
is that a white rose? I think that's a white rose.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the full card, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into it since I don't see anything on the live chat here. But the full card is very much a card about fresh beginnings. Often in the tarot, it's also about taking risks. It's also about doing things from like a childlike perspective. I feel like for this to be the card, especially pulling it after our conversation, it's very much giving me the idea of like, as much as life like wears us down and like the system of everything can really make us feel trapped and make us feel
Yes.
powerless. I feel like the full card is kind of going back to what we originally said when we first had this conversation about like being in our delulu a little bit.
Yes. We gotta be delusional.
In a
I'm sorry.
positive way though.
I'm a dreamer, baby.
Like what? I don't see nothing. But that's what
I
I'm
also
getting.
pulled a card.
Hey, what'd you pull?
Okay, I pulled a card from my Wild Unknown deck, and it's a really beautiful new deck for me, and I cleansed it before our conversation, but we got the vessel.
Hey, I love that.
Yes. So what do we think about that one too, guys?
Oh, Nicole Gentry says the purse on the stick because my money is safe. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. You got big money coming.
Yes.
She be masterminding world peace and abundance.
My money is on the back. We good. Let's see this card. I'm
Hmm.
getting. I think it's really interesting because it's like such a dark. Like you can't really see much happening, but then there's this
Yeah.
one glowing orb and some stuff going on in the front. So it's giving like tunnel vision vibes.
Mhm.
It's giving like kind of laser focus, having laser
Yeah.
focus, which goes very well with what we were saying here.
Yes.
Those are the immediate energy I'm getting from that.
Yeah, almost immediately for me because the what's in the little thing often for me looks like a chrome heart, like a
Mm.
very steel heart. So it just feels like while our vessel is around so much, like whether it's dark or light and we're coming in and out of it, as long as we still have like what makes us tick, our battery,
Yeah.
this will always get us through. That's what that feels like.
And it goes well with the full card in the sense of like
Hmm.
the other thing I always get from the full card is about like having that kind of childlike play and like
Yes.
you said, like what makes you tick, like having that kind of joy Like my thing lately has been like, despite what's going on, still doing, despite what is around me, despite the circumstance, still believing in X, you know, despite the reality, still carrying. It's like the nuance of like, we can feel, grieve, and allow what is happening to happen, but still have
Find joy.
find joy and
Yeah.
be create this like world within that that can be a place of empowerment and play, and allowing ourselves to kind of be in this state of like believing that something else could be possible,
Yeah.
even when it seems almost like naive too, but not in a sense that we're turning a blind eye like, oh, this just isn't
Mm-mm.
happening. It's like all the things we talked about is like naming it and you know, sitting with it, but also not allowing it to be the only thing that we believe, or that we don't see a future that's beyond it. And I think that's
Yeah.
so important too, because it can be such an off balance, right? Where like,
Yeah.
if we don't want to spiritually bypass anything where we're not allowing ourselves to feel something, or we're pretending that everything's just love and light. At least for myself,
Yeah.
I don't like that kind of behavior, and I feel like it's very colonial and you know, like very much rooted in white privilege too.
Yes.
But at the same time, I feel like it's something that I don't want to be in a position where I'm only allowing myself to be at this baseline, because I'm like, well, the world just sucks and I'm
Yeah.
seeing it and I'm
Because
seeing
it's
how horrible
because
it is.
happiness, joy, and love at the core of everything, but all of those things, all those positive things are revolutionary in the face of
Hmm.
all the things that we face every day, all the negatives that we face. If we can still feel joy, we are actively rebelling against the negativity.
Mhm.
So, chasing the positive while acknowledging the
Yeah.
negative is where the real work happens.
I love that. Yeah, I try to always tell myself to, despite all those things happening, to try and be the force, or to imagine the future that I still want to be, because I want to be the living, breathing of what, like, embodiment of what that could look like. And if
Yeah.
I just allow myself to only see in this scope, because, you know, and some days are better than others, you know,
Yeah.
but it's important for me to practice allowing both things to exist, and not having one completely take away from this, or like you
Yeah.
said, the vessel, because it's like, if not, what that turns into is like, maybe you wouldn't be on stage, maybe I wouldn't be on stage, maybe we wouldn't be doing the things that we love, because we're so bombarded by all of the negativity and the sadness. And like, how is that helping to create a future where we can deconstruct colonialism and create a world that isn't based on capitalism, and that is, you know, actually created in a way that is more equal and more equitable across identity lines, if we're
Yeah.
stuck in our house sad, not creating, and,
Yes.
you know, living small and not
Yes.
allowing ourselves to have joy or bliss, or to talk
Yes.
our shit, or to um you know, live this
Yeah.
fantasy in our head of what we could be and what the world could be, while still living in the reality of what the world is. And I think those kind of
Yes.
nuances are so important in this dialogue, and this kind of space that we are in the world today. And I
Yeah.
love how those cards kind of represent that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're beautiful together. It makes sense, and I'm hoping that this conversation allows people to like do a homework assignment of like, what are the things that I really am even a little bit in control of. So like I feel like it's a really good exercise to be like, what of these things do I think are out of my control? I have a little bit of power in. And what things am I like harboring on that I actually have no control over and I should just release. I should
Ooh.
release.
Mm-hmm. I'm about to do that right now.
Speak on it. I'm gonna check next time I see you.
Alrighty. Well, shout out to also Nicole Gentry. She said, "Don't be afraid.
Yes.
Keep going." Thank you for being here, Nicole, and everybody else who joined us in the chat today. Thank you so much, Mother Venom, for being here and being part of Tea and Tarot. I can't wait to chat with you again on your platform. And for everyone else, I will see you all again live here next Thursday. Well, next Thursday's Christmas, so the Thursday after that, for Tea and Tarot at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I will see you all then. Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Bye.